Hi, this is Chris from Canine Solutions Training Services. I wanted to share with you a podcast that my friend and client, Amber Lilyestrom, did on her Soul Fueled CEO podcast series. I really think it's a great interview and it really sums up what we're all about here at Canine Solutions Training Services. So thank you, Amber, and I hope you guys listen to it and learn from it. It's a long interview, it's about an hour, but it's great to turn on the radio. There's no video, just audio, and listen to if you're driving or you're cleaning something. And then if you have any comments, put them in the box below. Like, subscribe, share. Thanks for watching.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Soul Fueled CEO. I'm super duper excited to share this conversation with you guys today. I am interviewing my dog trainer of all people. His name is Chris Fraize of Canine Training Solutions in Kittery, Maine. And the story goes like this. I met him about over a year ago, and had an evaluation with my two beloved dogs, Riker and Nika. They are both incredible. We love them dearly. They are husky breed dogs, and they are high energy, and they are very stubborn in so many ways. And we've just had a lot of challenges with them across the board. We've worked really hard. We've gone to lots of trainers. And what I realized was that this was a theme for me, and this was something that was coming up after I had my first meeting with Chris. He really, really, really tapped into a lot of stuff beneath the surface. It actually felt like counseling for me going through this training. It was emotional. It was a big, big adventure and process, but I'm happy to report that we're on the other side now. Our dogs are doing fantastically well, and we're feeling really good about all the work that we've put in, and it's an ongoing relationship and an ongoing process. And we've really reframed the way that we exist with our dogs. And so this conversation, this interview, is more about training humans. It's more about mindset. It's more about getting in alignment. It's more about making conscious decisions about how you want to show up in your life and your business than it is about dog training, but there's a lot of that in there. And this experience working with Chris really struck me and really moved me in new and different ways. And I'm just really thrilled to share this conversation with you guys today. A lot of deep stuff. Grab your notebook, your pen, and your paper. You're going to have a lot of notes to take. And if you're a dog owner, it's going to really hit home for you, especially if you have a dog that has had some behavioral challenges in the past. So check it out, you guys, and let me know what you think over on the blog. Welcome back to the Soul Fueled CEO podcast. I am thrilled today to bring my guest, Chris Fraize of Canine Solutions Training Services here. It's Fraize, right? Not Fraize.
Yeah, Fraize.
Fraize.
F-R-A-S-E, but it's
Yes.
R-A-I-Z-E. It's confusing.
Yeah.
French.
Perfect. So Chris is my dog trainer of all things, but actually he's more of a people trainer. And I learned a lot through our work together with our dogs, and I'll get into that a little bit more. But I really want to dive into this conversation and let Chris talk to you guys about what he does, why he does it, a little bit about your background and your story, and how you got to where you are today with this successful business with a full staff and people coming to you, and really, you helping change their lives through their dogs.
Yeah, it has been and continues to be a long journey, wrought with mistakes and learning experiences, and really lessons and all kinds of life that just never stops. I think sometimes people think, well, I'm going to be successful, and then all the lessons really stop. It never ends, and it's just like dog training, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It never ends. You got to keep going.
That's right.
Yeah. So tell me about how you became a dog trainer. What made you make that choice? Tell me a little bit about your background, because I love to hear the history behind people's stories. I think it's really powerful.
Sure. Well, I mean, it's never one thing, right? It's a whole bunch of different things, and you're going like, well, this is how my life is mapped out, and this is what I'm going to do with my life, and then life goes, yeah, you know what? No. So I was doing stand-up comedy. I was doing pretty well. Working at Foxwoods, working in Boston at the Comedy Connection, all the little, the college circuit and stuff like that. And I just didn't have anything to do during the day. And I'd always been kind of an animal guy. I used to have a company called Animals for Education. When I got out of high school, I started that, and I started taking exotic animals around to school kids and teaching them about nature and stuff like that. So I was bored. Basically, when you're a comedian, you're 45 minutes on a weeknight, and maybe you have 3 or 4 shows on a Saturday or a Friday night. But I didn't have anything to do, so I went and started working at a kennel where they do police work. And the guy told me, I'll teach you to be a dog trainer, but you've got to clean these 250 indoor-outdoor runs every day, and we'll trade. And of course, I was very young and stupid and said yes. And that led to one thing that led to another. But what I saw was that commercial dog training is kind of a lie, I guess. It's everybody's proceeding from a false assumption. Everybody thinks they're starting off at that place that they think they know what a dog is. And it sounds so crazy to say that to people, but that's why we have a dog problem today, because everybody's not realizing that the start point is where everybody screwed up.
So that kind of got you excited. I love to hear that you were an entrepreneur from the beginning, as a comedian, but also with Animals for Education, that you started. And so when did you start training on your own and under your own business name?
20 years ago, a little more or less. I didn't feel like I was qualified to be a professional trainer, because I think too many people nowadays, you can go online and you can become a certified master trainer in 6 weeks and never touch a dog. You can have a virtual dog that you click on and feed and wipe its butt. But it's crazy now how the bar has been lowered. And I just never wanted to be part of that. I wanted to help instead of just kind of contribute to the problem. So we found our niche, which is problem dogs, and there's an epidemic of problem dogs now. I mean, that's how I met you. And your connection to me was Cassie, and that's how she found me, and it just kind of continues to grow that way, So I think that if you look at the way dog training is now, is that there are so many experts that, I mean, they're not really experts, and the general public loves what those experts are selling because it's what they want, not what they need. So I would say if you went into McDonald's, they're going to be a very, very busy, successful franchise, correct? But if you open a one-man business where you're making holistic tofu wrap that's good for everybody, you're going to go out of business. So it's the difference between what you want and what you need. And our motto here, that's always been from the beginning, is welcome to Canine Solutions, where the customer is always wrong.
That's a tough sell. So
unless you need it.
Yeah, unless you really need it. So let's dive in and talk about that part, because obviously you found your niche and you've really stuck with it. So you were sharing with me that you've had some offers and some opportunities to be on reality TV programs from some big name channels, essentially networks, and you turned them down. And so I want you to share why and what that's all about, because your answer and what we talked about before we had this interview really is at the heart of what it means to be a soul-fueled CEO.
Yeah, it's integrity. I mean, it's, if you sell your soul to the devil for a paycheck, then why am I doing this? I mean, you have to believe wholeheartedly in your DNA with that you are trying to help. And I think that you can make money a lot easier if you're trying to, like, if you open a tobacco, lottery, and liquor store, you can make money. But I mean, what kind of person are you going to be at the end of the day? I think for me, we're talking about dogs and advocacy for dogs. And there's a problem. So when the network, who thought, I won't mention the network, but you know.
I do.
Network it is. And we've had 3 shots at it, and we're working on a 4th right now. But when they said, here's what you need to do to be successful. And I said, no, because that's not who I am. And they said, don't you want to be successful? Don't you want to be rich? And I said, not enough to, I've done comedy. I know what it's like to have a little bit of like X-list celebrityism. But that's not what it was about for me. It was about changing the way people think about dogs and helping the dogs out. So the minute you start to see the light and the glamour of being a celebrity or going on TV, and you change your product, to me, You're your son. So I think if you can be true to yourself, you can sleep at night, and you know, do what you have to do to be the person that started out with that dream in the first place.
That's so powerful. I love that. And it's a really cool segue over into the conversation about having the confidence to be who you really are. And so that was the real incongruency for me in the dog training world in our conversations, because we had some pretty hard conversations. I cried a lot. And you were like, I don't know what the deal is with you. You're this confident, you know, you come in.
It didn't fit.
Yeah, but with your dogs, you're just a puddle, you're a mess, and you feel like you can't manage them. And so that was a real opportunity for me to go inward and to look at what was incongruent and where was I not really being myself across the board in all aspects of my life, not just in my business. And that's incredibly important. I know for you as a dad, you're a father, you're a husband, and you're a business owner, and you're a teacher and a mentor. You're a lot of things. Yeah. And so that integrity holistically is incredibly important. And so you've helped me a lot with that. So talk to me about, I want to know, bottom line, your philosophy about dogs. And like you said, changing the way people think about dogs and helping dogs be dogs. Let's talk about that definition, the Disney syndrome, all that stuff. Let's just go right in there.
Okay, so the deal is that when people come in, they always believe that they have a dog problem. Always. And it's never the dog. It is never, ever the dog. I was on a local radio station, and that just baffled everybody. We're doing something different because what everybody else is doing isn't working. So what we do is, I think it's called what I call the training triangle. There's the dog, the owner, and the trainer. And those circuit pathways in that triangle of communication have to go both ways. You have to be able to read the dog, and you have to be able to read yourself. And the trainer has to be able to communicate with you and communicate with the dog. When people come in, the circuit pathway between their dog and them is broken. And they don't understand that. But why is it broken? So I won't pick on you too bad.
It's okay.
but there was I've had a woman come in, and this dog was completely out of control, not aggressive, but just wild. And she said to me, you know, I don't know why the dog is like this. So I just started talking to her, and I said, you're treating the dog like a little baby. Why are you treating the dog like a baby? Well, she had a bunch of miscarriages, and then when she stopped having a kid, she said, or she stopped trying to have children, she said, screw it, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get a dog and I'm going to treat it like a baby. I don't think she made that decision consciously. I don't even think she's aware she made that decision. That's the problem.
Right.
And so when people come in and they're expecting dog training because they think the dog's the problem, and it turns out that it's something deeply rooted in their person who's stopping them from being happy and stopping them from being the person that they want to be, and stopping their dog from acting poorly. When you hold up the mirror, you're going to get one of two results. You're going to get people who hate your guts or people who love you. That's something I've had to come to terms with a long time ago, is that it's fine. You can hate me if you want. I'm just telling you the truth. And I'm not yelling at you. I'm not screaming at you. And people just don't want you that deep in their mind. But the problem is, I can see it. It's not like it's deep, and the dog can see it. It's right on the surface. So it's always the human's communication shortcoming that is usually the problem in how they're communicating with the dog. And part of that is their perception of the dog, that it's an infant in this case. It's not an infant, it's a dog. And because you're treating it like a spoiled infant grandchild, it's taking complete and utter advantage of you. And when it's on a leash and it doesn't get what it wants, it sounds like a
screaming baby. Yeah. I have one of those, so I can relate to that. And that story was not my story, but it's very similar in terms of how we raised Nika. And I think one huge epiphany for me was that we got her and she weighed 4 pounds, and I was so worried that she was going to get hurt. And so
where does that come from?
That
comes from a nurturing place.
Yes.
How do you tell somebody that, okay, don't be concerned?
Right.
It's hard. It doesn't make sense all the time. You got to work through it.
Yeah, I mean, we would carry her down the stairs at night because we were afraid that because we were so tired we were gonna trip on her or something. She was so small, and right from the get-go, she was nuts and screaming, and she learned exactly how to get us. We would put her in our bed so that she would stop screaming. And so then of course she was never gonna go in the crate because she knew that if she screamed that she wouldn't have to. So
That's a brat.
yeah, she's a total brat. And so we've learned, and now I don't perceive it as something's wrong, that she's like something's wrong with her or whatever. It's that she's just being a brat, and you helped me get there, but it took a lot of time for me to figure that out.
But isn't it funny though that, I mean, you have two dogs that are completely opposite of each other.
Yes.
And then, you've got a spouse and you've got family members and
a toddler.
and we talk about all the time. I mean, you and I have had conversations about it where people's perception of you being a good dog parent are in direct conflict
Yes.
with what people think you should do with a dog.
Correct.
And that's hard. Right now in this society, people will pay, I don't know, $75 to watch a UFC fight, two guys, two women beat the crap out of each other in a steel cage. If you correct a dog for being a brat,
Mm-hmm.
people are much more willing to be mean to other people or to put boundaries on people than they are to put on their own dog or someone else's dog. And that's kind of scary.
It is. Well, I messaged you about that because we're getting a lot of really sort of assertive feedback from family members about having our dogs lie down and stay lying down in the places we put them when people were coming over for a party. And we received a lot of flack about that. And when you say correction, because, that can really be a varying, degrees of things. For us, what I've learned is that our dogs both have flat collars, and the correction means popping their leash a little bit.
Sometimes it's verbal.
Yeah.
It's just something to make them uncomfortable because that's where dogs find their boundaries. I mean, that's where we find our boundaries, isn't it?
Yeah, but we're not shocking them. We don't even have pinch prong collars on them or anything like that. Yeah. And it's literally just having them. So this part is the cool about the psyche, because it's about having them make decisions. Can you talk about that? Because that was huge for me to recognize that, these animals are consciously making decisions all day long, and I've trained them and groomed them to make the wrong decisions.
That's right.
Not what I want, but ultimately they don't know the difference between wrong and right because they've been trained to make that decision.
More than trained, it is training. You're absolutely right, but it's allowed. Allowed will continue. So if I bring my son over to your house, and this is kind of the way modern dog training is today, if I bring my son who's 14 over your house and I'm doing an in-home with you and we're kind of working and my son takes $20 out of your purse, you're cool, you're wicked cool, and you're like, okay, it's $20, but I'm going to call Chris on the way home and kind of let him know from a parenting standpoint. The way modern dog training is today, what I would say to you when you said, hey, your son took $20 out of my purse is, well, the next time we come over, move your purse.
Right.
How about we teach the kid not to put his hands where they don't belong?
Right.
Okay, well, that's the same thing with dog training is if the dog is allowed to do something, so the dog's like eating something off the floor, and people, one of my big things is leave it. They say leave it, and then they hold the dog back and move the food. The dog didn't learn to leave it. The dog learned, when you drop that again, I'm going to go faster and I'm going to grab it. So when you really have a chance to kind of get people to understand that a dog isn't a Disney character, that a dog is a predator, and it's an opportunistic predator, and that's why they call men dogs, that you start to really see that opportunism comes up and you're enabling it. You're just allowing everything, and you're trying not to make the dog uncomfortable. And that's mean. If you make a dog uncomfortable, it's mean. It's not mean. Beating a dog to death is mean. Making a dog uncomfortable is parenting. And the dog, you can't just lift up their ear flap and say, stoppies, don't do that. That's no good. You have to have some kind of consequence that doesn't come from an emotional place, either too hard or too soft.
Yeah.
And that's really hard for people to understand, because I think we see dogs bring out the best and the worst in us as humans. They people are rescuing. Everything's a rescue now. Rescue. And it makes them feel wonderful that they're helping. A lot of rescues aren't helping. They're taking a problem
kind of lying about it and not temperament testing the dog, and then just so it doesn't have to be put down, put in a home, and it's dangerous. That's a lot of my clients who come in with dogs they just got, who are biting them or biting someone else. And it's really weird how people will put aside a dog biting someone and make their kid leave the dog alone, or make someone not come to the door, or will put the dog in the bedroom instead of fixing the problem. Because again, we get back to it. I don't think modern techniques in dog training are conducive to teaching dogs. I think what they're doing is they allow, you bribe, you do all the bad things that you wouldn't do in a relationship with a human being, or you shouldn't do.
Right. Yeah, and we had sought training before we met you, and from when they were puppies. So we had done training all through. And I think that's the other part. It's that a lot of your clients come to you and it's like, we tried really hard. You know, we thought we were doing all of the right things, and we were just grooming them into becoming worse and really sort of feeding the beast in a way, and enabling that behavior. But the psychology of it all has been a real shift for me. And one thing that I noticed when I was coming to classes and watching men and women interact with dogs is that women are not assertive with our bodies. And so I struggled with that, with like when we were getting up and doing the actual training, I was very tentative and very nervous about how to do it. And then the guys some overcompensate and they get kind of aggressive with the dog. And so that's us putting our emotion into it. And like you said, women, we just shut down and we say whatever. So we get overwhelmed. This is a beautiful analogy for life, because it's not just about dog training. This is why you're on the show, because it's an analogy for life and business. And so we show up, we get overwhelmed by things, and we just say, I can't. It's too much. I'm not doing it anymore, whatever. Men, the other side of it, they get aggressive.
Get a bigger hammer.
Yeah. So how do you help people first acknowledge that, like receive and recognize that that's what's happening for them? How do you kind of be the mirror? And then how do you help them overcome that?
Well, the first thing is, I mean, it's brilliant questions. You're really setting me up for success here. The deal is, how do I deliver that message? It's Nike. I just do it. It's why, I am so anti-political correctness. I cannot tell you.
I know. we had to have a talk before we got on here about language.
Yeah, well, that's not, I mean, even that, but like.
No, but you know what I'll tell you, and I'll just say this because you are a brilliant teacher, and I'm not saying that to pad your ego at all. It's just the truth. And brilliant teachers know that about themselves, but it's not an ego-based thing. It's part of your shtick too, because you're a comedian. But Tony Robbins is one of my most favorite mentors, and he uses very, very assertive language at his live events for a physical reason, because it shocks people and it makes them really understand the significance of what he's teaching and talking about. So I know that you do that too, and you also use it as for humor, because it's a very tense situation when we come into those classes, because there's so much that's kind of been put into this. Now we're finally here. It's the breaking point for most of us now. Like, we're there, we're desperate. We're like, please.
The gift of desperation. I love the gift of desperation. But it is, political correctness is ruining a lot of things here. And I'm not talking about being rude. I'm talking about one of the reasons that I swear a lot, because I do, and when there's kids around, I really do not. It's
right.
Difficult to not, but I do not. Is that I think people hear, they don't hear the message, they hear being offended. I'm offended. Well, look, I'm a passionate guy. I mean, I'm passionate about everything I do. I'm telling you, there's nothing that I'm not passionate about, and that passion has to come out. And sometimes it's raw. I mean, everybody wants it in a container where, they can drink it. Whatever. Sometimes you drink it from the fire hose. Here it comes. Don't confuse the passion for rudeness, because nobody's used to being talked to how I talk to them. I don't yell at.
Correct.
I mean, did I ever scream at you or yell at you?
No, absolutely not.
But I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
That's not you.
Right.
That's not who you are.
Well, and I think that that's a moment to pause, because it's really powerful, because you're coaching each individual person for who they are and then their relationship with their dog. You're not blanketing all of us. And that's a skill that you understand people. and you understand, you know how to you read them the minute they come in the door, and it continues to unfurl as you go forward, but you usually have everybody's number. And I think for me as a coach, that's an important part of my work too. And anyone listening to this that is someone that works individual people, understanding people and recognizing that's the most important part of what you're doing, understanding where they are, what their fears are, all of those things, it's going to help you better serve them and help them be more successful.
Right. And but that's unnerving.
Yes.
It's like, this guy can see right through me.
Yes.
Like I have my shields up and they're not working.
Right.
Because when someone walks through the door, they're asking me for my opinion. They're asking me for help.
Correct.
They're asking me to save their dog's life.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they want my opinion. They want me to help. And most of the time they're like, that's conditional. That don't tell me the truth. Don't tell me that it's something I'm doing. And find a technique, and that's modern dog training again, where people teach techniques in a cookie cutter manner.
Mm-hmm.
They really don't understand the people on the end of the leash. They see them as a paycheck and they see them as a number. I don't do money stuff with anything in my business. I think it's a conflict of interest. I have a Karen for that, right, Karen?
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because Karen's the business and I'm the passion. And
right.
That's how it works.
You're the show. Yeah. Yeah. That's really good.
Yeah.
I just want to pause for a second. Something you just said there is really good. So you said people come in asking for my opinion, and that's what they're there for. They're coming in because I'm the expert that they want support and guidance from. And so those of you that are listening to this show, whatever it is you're doing, you are the expert. And so I think that there's a place, especially for women, and not just for women, for men too, but where we don't fully trust our expertise in things, and we've spent our whole lives doing it. We're really good at it. We've helped people completely change their lives, yet somehow we question ourselves when we're, in the dark of the night or whatever, sitting there thinking, am I really good at this? Can I really do this? And I know that the dog thing really brought that up for me. Like, am I even, good at what I say I do? And it pushed a lot of buttons for me. And it felt like this one area in my life that was really messed up, and I just felt completely helpless in how to really solve this challenge.
Right, but you're a victim of your own success. You get used to being successful, and then it feels good.
Yeah.
You get addicted to that, and then something comes along, life comes along, and just kicks you in the face, and you go, "Wait a minute, this is ooky. I don't like this."
Yeah,
and now you go, "Well, look, there's a problem."
Mm-hmm.
You're not immune from it. You're
Yes.
very successful. You're very pretty. You're very kind. You're very articulate.
I paid him to say all that, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of money too.
Yeah.
But at some point, you're a human being.
Right.
And you have to be open to understanding where your shortcomings are.
Mm-hmm.
And, pride comes before the fall. If we just start walking around believing our own press that we're wonderful and we're this, look, I struggle with my weight. I struggle with raising my kids. I struggle in my marriage. I struggle in my relationship with Karen because she's mean as a snake. But I really have to work all the time at the things that I struggle with in my life. And I'm a human being, but I'm not going to use, well, that's human behavior or human nature as an excuse to just let it keep happening. And I won't let anybody do that.
You know what? I want to talk about that one, like, you remember the day we were talking about failure. That was a pretty rugged day for me. We were there for probably like 4 hours. I don't even know. That was a long.
You got a little seminar there.
That was intense, but it was also, I love that you were like, I don't care how many people are waiting in the waiting room right now. I'm working with you guys, and this is what we're doing, and we're going to finish this lesson, just like you say we're doing with the dogs. But what the nerve that you really hit for me and really opened up for me was when you talked about failure, and you said, I love failure. I get excited about failure. It's an opportunity. And that was profound for me. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. It's like if you get mad when there's a failure, and believe me, I wasn't born this way. It took a lot of failure to start to realize that failure is good.
Mm-hmm.
Failure is where you learn. Failure is where I get to teach your dog. If your dog wasn't failing, we would have never met.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So there's a lot of good. People see it's either good or it's bad. It's a good dog or it's a bad dog, or it's success or it's failure. No, nobody has success without failures. Nobody. What you do with those failures, you either take it and you turn it into a big pile of turd and you internalize it, or you turn it into a diamond and you learn from it. Failure is learning. Stress is growth. All of those things that make a dog and people uncomfortable while you're training a dog it's not natural to not be stressed. It's not natural to not fail. There's nobody, I mean, you're not a god. You don't just wake up and succeed at everything.
Right.
And there are the failures and how you deal with them build your character and what is important to you. You know, one of the things that, you know, you talk about that if you're the customer in front of me, that's what I'm going to do. It's like a doctor's office. I've had people walk out and say, well, I was here at 1 o'clock. Yep. But you know what? When you need me and there's someone behind you, I'm going to stick with you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what dog trainers do. Dog trainers don't want to get personal. Dog trainers don't want to get deep into it. They teach you the technique that they know, or it's been regurgitated to them, or they read in a book, and they're not teaching you and what the problem is. Now, where's my buddy Scrat there? Is it right there?
She's right here.
Now,
She's asleep.
We couldn't be in a room
Yeah.
without that dog screaming.
Yes. Bloody murder.
No, it was crazy. I mean, it was, you know, you came 2 weeks in and you're like, she's still screaming.
I was like, this is never gonna change. And she and you extended her stay for us because, you know, you knew that we needed more time.
Don't tell Karen that's a
Yeah.
But it's the whole thing of that when you are ready to make that change, I promise you the dog will change.
Yeah.
I promise you.
That's really big. Yeah.
But-
When you are ready to make the change, the dog will change. But until you are,
That's
right.
what- you were too busy looking for the door.
Yeah, I was.
And then you told me, I'm going to give the dog to my parents. And then I was like, what are you doing?
I know. I did.
Why are you doing this?
I know.
Oh, I was so disappointed.
I know.
And then but that's passion. Who does that?
But you held the line with me. And so the analogy of that was, Ben and I talked a lot about it after, and I did a lot of, like, of course, as you know, like processing. And I thought, I have clients that will come in, and I was doing exactly what my clients do. So 2 weeks in, 3 weeks in, they're like, this isn't going to work. I can't do this. The website doesn't look the way that I want it to look. I don't feel like my brand is in alignment. Like, I feel like a hot mess. I don't know what I'm doing. I was exactly the blueprint of what my clients are like a couple weeks into the work. And because it was hard to see the vision. And so how do you help people with that? Because when, you know, all I've had is failure with this dog. That's all I've experienced. She's nipped people and she's psychotic screamer and I can't control it. And I feel like a complete failure. So it's kind of like a recipe for disaster when people are coming to you because they're a mess. How do you help them see the vision?
You just go through it. And it's the people, I think that if I'm a leader, I mean, I can't go and go, yeah, this sucks. I don't know how we're going to get out of this.
Right.
I've been through it. So did you
Right.
hear the story about the friends, like what a friend is?
No.
A friend is, okay, so this is this guy and he's walking, he falls down a hole. And it's a deep hole, sheer sides, he can't get out. So he asks, he looks up, he sees his doctor walking by and he says, hey doc, can you help me out? So the doctor writes a prescription for him. Then he sees his lawyer walking by. He says, hey, counselor, can you help me out? He writes him a bill. And then he sees his priest and he says, can you help me, Father? And he writes a prayer and sends it down. And then his buddy comes along, Joe, and he jumps down the hole with him. And he says, what are you doing down here? Now we're both down here. He says, yeah, but I've been down this hole before and I know the way out. That's what a friend is. And so you're talking about your clients when they feel helpless, when they feel vulnerable, when they're attached to something and they're not seeing reality. That's where your leadership and your expertise come through.
Right.
It's no different than that.
Yeah, exactly. And I got that when I was having my own heart to heart after leaving that particular day. Another story I wanted to dive into, which I thought was really powerful, that stuck with me, and I've actually shared my own clients, so thank you, was the day that we had a little breakout session and we were in that side room. We had Riker. So just to paint the picture for you guys, and I will post a picture of my dogs in this post so you guys can see what my dogs look like. But we have this huge husky, he's like almost 100 pounds, and then we have Nika, affectionately referred to by Chris as Scrat, the Ice Age squirrel. And
the staff calls her Squeaka.
that's good.
Yeah, because she's
Squeaka. Yeah, she is. And she weighs like 16 pounds. And so she's a mini husky, basically Alaskan Klee, he's a giant husky. And so they're matching perfect little dogs, right? Yeah. So we're in the room doing the training. Nika's backstage, essentially. I'm working with Chris and Riker, and Chris has me put Riker down basically in front of me, sort of next to him, and just getting him to lie down and stay there and then go back to my chair. and let him just stay there. Very simple exercise, yet it was not for me. It took him probably, I would say like 4 times I had to get back up and get him to lie back down, which was very challenging for me. Got him to lie down. And then you got up to go get Nika. And as you were walking out of the room, I got myself in like battle position. I was ready for action. And you stopped and you turned around and you said, "What are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, what are you doing right now?" I said, "Well, he's going to get up when you come back." And he goes, "Did he get up?" And he was laying there with his head on the floor, completely relaxed. I said, "No, he didn't." He said, "Right. So you're like a pendulum of the past, the future." So can you talk about that concept? Because that was profound.
So dogs are in the moment, okay? They're always looking for an angle, always. And people misread them all the time. Humans have a pendulum that switches and shifts from past to future. So, you know, people go, "What do you mean, Chris?" Well, my wife will do it. If we're going down to visit my mother-in-law, then my wife, you know, we're just driving and my wife will go, "Oh my God." And I'm like, What? Crossing the road. And she's like, "I have to order checks." Well, she just scared the hell out of me in the present because she was in the future.
Mm-hmm.
That's the time pendulum. You weren't reading your dog. You were looking at you were accepting the failure and it hadn't even happened.
Yeah.
So there's a success that you're going, "Okay, I'm getting ready for failure." When if you just took the time to be in the moment, have that pendulum with the dog, and when I pointed it out to you, you did. You looked down and the dog was basically asleep.
Yes.
And so what we do is we get in that failure rut where we're saying, "I'm not looking for success. I'm expecting failure."
Yeah.
And that's what I have to do to people and say, "No, wake up right here in this moment. Your dog's got it right and you're acting like he's failing." And we do that with people all the time.
Right. That was huge. That was so huge. And it was basing it on past experiences, right? It was creating my reality, in the present based on the past, which doesn't even exist anymore. It's not existing right now. Riker was doing nothing wrong. And so then I chilled out and you went and got Nika, and I was trying to be as calm as I possibly could. And of course, as he walked in, he got up and I went over and corrected him, got him back down. And it took like 2 times. And then he stayed right there. And then Nika was quiet, doing what she was tuned into you and listening to what you were telling her to do. And it was a really big learning moment for me around just how I'm showing up in my life, in my business, and all of these places. And I will say it's funny, over the last like couple months, but really recently, I've just been a lot more calm in my life across the board. And so, and I attribute that to a lot of things, but definitely this experience of working together in this way and facing my own demons in a lot of ways, live and in color, coming into the classes and doing that in front of other people too. Let's talk about that, because that's a vulnerable angle too, right? I mean, I witnessed some folks getting sassy with you. I witnessed, you know,
They do.
yeah, there are a lot of, so how do you handle that when that kind of happens in public, like in front of you? Like, how do you I would love for your perspective on that.
Well, this is the political correctness again, is that you've got to go to what's real. I mean, if you stay with what's real, you're golden. Start to change because you want to change what people's reality is, then you're just being part of the problem. So I'll tell you, yesterday I had an evaluation with a couple that had a dog that grabbed another dog at daycare and damn near killed him. So this was 3.5 years ago. So they haven't had this dog around dogs in 3.5 years, around dogs. So this dog's universe is shrinking. Right? And they have been to 3 other dog trainers in New England. They've been to Vermont, they've been to Massachusetts, and they've been to Connecticut. And then they finally came here. You know, the owners were planners. They needed to know exactly what I was going to do. And I said, how do I know what I'm going to do? I haven't seen the dog yet. It's like calling your mechanic and say, "Hey, my car's going clunkety clunk. How much is that going to cost me?"
Right.
You can't.
Yeah.
If somebody tells you, then they're cookie cutter trained. So they come in. I cannot hear because this dog is screaming at the top of its lungs. Big old prong collar on the dog. And, you know, these people were very nice, but they were really desperate. Okay. Turns out they didn't sign up because it was too much for them, not money wise, but like it's just too much. And that happens, but whatever, I'm still going to give you, I'm not trying to convince you to sign up.
Correct. Ever.
If you need me, like the lady said to me, well, I'm leaving. And I said, have fun.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, well, I don't like your customer service. I said, you're getting fantastic customer service right now. And she's like, what do you mean? I said, you're being told the truth and you don't like being told the truth.
Mm-hmm.
If you get mad at that, okay, but what do you want me to do? And really, truly, I think she wanted me to lie to her. I think she wanted me to tell her that it was hopeless and that she didn't have to change. Well, one of the things I noticed was when we started to get to some truth in the evaluation where I said, what does your dog do when someone comes to the door? And she said, well, I tell the dog to sit and it sits. And I said, I don't think that's true. And she said, oh, you're calling me a liar. I said, no, I just don't think your perception is correct. And the husband goes, you're right. We don't say sit. We grab his collar and we push his butt down and then we hold him in a sit. And the wife just spun and gave that husband the stink eye. Like, how dare you? Well, that's not real. Now we're trying to create something so you're not wrong.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
how can I help you? Well, the first things first. Who's the teacher and who's the student? I'm the teacher, you're the student. Okay? We have to have respect for each other. If you're not telling me and being honest with me about the thing, how can I help you?
Right.
Right? So, you know, I had the staff around me and they were like, wow, that was rough. She beat you up. No, it wasn't rough because everybody's trying to get you to go towards their reality. So if there's a problem, we all go like, oh, don't look at the problem. No, that's what a dog trainer is a problem solver.
Right.
If I was full of crap and I started to give this lady what she wants, she would have lost respect for me. And I would have never, ever gotten anything because I'm just like everybody else. Right. The truth is they treat this dog like it's made out of nitroglycerin. And the dog, when it sees another dog, starts screaming on the leash because it gets what it wants all the time. Mm-hmm. Well, the first thing for that is don't give the dog what it wants. Well, that makes the lady very upset, and it turns out very angry at me. That's the truth. So I weigh 308 pounds now, down from 324, and I'm trying. But when I went to my doctor, I have a woman doctor. She's awesome, and I've been to a bunch of other doctors, and they're like, "Oh, take this pill and do this and do that." She looked me dead in the face and said, "You're fat." I mean, she told you the truth. Yeah. That's what I do. Yeah. I don't tell people they're fat.
Right. No.
I'll say, you're fat and you suck with your dog. But
yeah.
But what I'm saying is, she's like, do you want to fix the problem or do you just want me to give you little pills to fix everything along the way?
Right.
Give you side effects that you're going to have to take little pills for that are going to make you miserable, and then this isn't going to be the problem. Right. But we go to the source. The source is that you're trying to communicate with something that isn't the same species as you. And that's difficult. How many people do you know that can communicate well with other human beings? Well? Yeah. Really well, at a high level.
In my life and in my circle. I mean, I work with a lot of coaches, so I know a fair number, but I would say in like real life,
yeah, like
not a ton.
Yeah, right. I mean, you go out with people and they have road rage, and you go out with
people, I mean, go to the grocery store and just watch people's body language and behavior. It's, you can hardly get the cashier to smile at you. Correct.
That's right. And so for me, you're the same way. Is that I choose to surround myself with people that communicate very well. Mm-hmm. But when the customers come in, they're vulnerable.
Yes.
They're all what people would call the negatives. They don't realize that they have a gift.
Right.
They're not seeing it the way I do. I'm trying to take that little diamond and just grow it out. And they don't even want you to see the diamond. They don't see it as a diamond. So
yeah, right.
It's difficult.
Yeah, especially when that little diamond has bitten people. So that's you have one of the hardest jobs of anyone I know, for sure. And also that you have the risk of actually getting bitten sometimes. And I know it has happened. Not that, I mean, you're, of your staff, you're probably the least likely to get bitten, but.
I'm old and fat, so no. Dylan's actually the quickest.
Yeah,
he's young. He's 21.
Yeah.
Just wasted on the young.
This is the truth. So tell me then about your sort of like the bedrock. I kind of want to like bullet point. So what is success for you? What does success look like for Chris?
Staying on the path. Just being the best person I can be every day and trying to communicate well and putting better people in my life and trying to give a better product. it's not measured as a goal. Karen and I have a hard time sometimes because she loves goals and she's great. I brought her into my life to be a giant pain in the butt. And that's where I have a problem, is that I'm much more of an impulsive, in the moment person. And my weakness is where she's excellent. She's so good at setting goals. And sometimes I get discouraged because I'm so in the moment that I forget that I have to set goals. And you have to put people in your life that kind of complement you. And I tell you, a friend is going to tell you where you need your butt kicked. And certainly that's what happens here. Success to me is just growth. You know, it's not really a destination, but a trip and a road that you go down. So you have these little moments of satisfaction. And I think they're, you know, if you finish training a dog or you get to a short-term goal, but then what's next? Where are we going next? And that's really where I see success is having, let's find some more problems.
Yeah. And for me, you know, I see for you, because I can't help it, you know, I'm a branding business coach. And so we've talked about this a little bit, just sort of sidebar, that, you know, and this is part of the reason why I wanted you on this show, was because I really want to share you and your message with more people. I put a post up on Facebook a couple weeks back when I was early on with our work with Nika, and I said, tell me about your dog and what you'd like to get training for, or would you consider, or wouldn't you? So many people on that post, I'll have to tag you in it, talked about all these problems with their dogs, like crazy things, like just jumping all over people and being insane and crazy and ruining furniture and like all this stuff in their house. And they say, I would say 85% of them said they wouldn't consider doing training again because it's not worth it to them, because it's just like, it's too hard. They don't have the time, costs too much money. And it's like, you're living with this little wrecking ball dog in your home that you've completely created. And they're, you know, the relationship, it is what it is. But I just thought that was fascinating, and also an opportunity for you to help a lot of people and just getting your message out to a bigger audience, I think, than what you can physically do person to person. And Kittery is an important next step.
Yep. I think it's awesome. And, you know, that's all the stuff that the message is so important. And I think so many times when people wanted to do reality shows with us, they weren't interested in our message. They were interested in money. If you follow your passion, the money will come.
Agreed.
If you follow the money, you're going to have money, but you're not going to have your passion for long. I think that if you look at today's society with dogs, and one of the things that's the saddest thing for me, and I really try to find the good in everything, but we live in a society where dogs are disposable because people don't need them, they want them. Dogs were bred to serve people, not people bred to serve dogs. And we're in this age where everybody who doesn't know what they're doing is an expert with dogs. And I can prove it to you. We have disposal stations called shelters in every city in this country.
Right.
Screw up your dog, because they're not all bad. I mean, they can't be. There's no way that you bring your dog there and you say, here, it's not my problem anymore. And now they take it, and without doing any training, they try to find another person who's going to hold it for a little while and here. And so the dogs are getting worse and worse and worse, and eventually they get put down, or someone gets bit and then they get put down, or they get hit by a car. It's the fact that the dog culture in this country is broken, and people believe it. They want to see the Lady and the Tramp movies, and you know, I had a lady come in with 2 Chihuahuas the other day, and she said, I want them to learn how to talk like they do in Beverly Hills, Chihuahua.
What? Real life?
Oh, yeah. No. I mean, I have a million stories. Like
Be on a fly on the wall for that one.
Oh, you come here for a Saturday and you'll be like, wow, I'm a great human being. I mean, it's not everybody, but you have a lot of extreme people. People who can't communicate with other people tend to get animals. And they now they can communicate with the dog or the cat, and they think it loves them back, and it's all that stuff. I mean, I had a lady come in with 2 hairless rat terriers that were in a side-by-side human twin baby carriage, and they had diapers on, and they had and they were aggressive in the carriage. And she's like, I don't know why they're being aggressive. I said, well, you've strapped them down so their bellies are exposed in a submissive position, and people are coming up, like grandma goes, "Oh, come here, please."
Yeah.
That's pressure. And she said, "Well, can you help me?" I said, "No, you need a psychotherapist." Diaper. If you're too far gone and you're dressing your dog up in a diaper, don't come here. No, we don't want you.
Oh my God, it's hilarious.
But it's crazy the way people say. If you went to the North End and you went to an Italian bistro and there were two dogs out back trying to mate, you wouldn't come out and set a tablecloth with some pasta and watch them kiss.
No.
You chase them away with a broom.
Right.
But what people think now is, oh, I love dogs. Yep, I'm sure you do, but you don't understand the dog.
Correct.
And that's the problem. So people say, oh, it's too much money. Well, your trainers let you down, or it's too much effort. Well, your trainers let you down, or it's too much work. Don't have a dog. I mean, I'm a big fan of people not having dogs.
Right. Right. Well, I think people also like to be victims. And so, I mean, and I know that's a big thing, for you. It's the dog is doing it to them. And I definitely felt that way for a really long time. So now I think the work helps people become the leaders, right? Become that leader of the pack, right? It's kind of cheesy, but it's in this household, me recognizing that, you said to me in our very first meeting, you said, well, when do you get to be happy? You're taking care of everybody else. And now you have these pain in the what dogs. And when do you get to actually, enjoy this process and this experience of having dogs? And I was just sitting there exhausted and just looking at you like, I don't even understand the question. It doesn't make sense.
No. People have to have that mirror held up to say, look, this is what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
And you're a really great person. And it's just so different. That was like a giant blip on my radar where I was like, this isn't you.
Doesn't make sense. Right. Right.
And that's what I see all the time, is that these people are making concessions. Like, a dog will bite a kid and they go, well, tell the kid not to go near the dog.
Right. No. Right.
Someone rescues a dog and they bring it into their house and they say, oh, it bites because it was a rescue. Well, if I adopted a kid from like Korea who had been in like a really bad orphanage and he's 14 years old and I have a 14-year-old at home, the kid from Korea can't come in and bite my 14-year-old. And I go, he's from Korea. You got to let him chew on you.
Right.
No, we don't do that here.
Right.
We have to beat the crap out of the kid, but we have to get it. That's the problem.
Yes.
That gives you a chance to be the leader. It gets the child a chance to see that someone is in charge for probably the first time. And it allows that opportunity for the child to kind of go, okay, well, if you're going to lead, then I can be protected and I can go. And that's exactly what happens with the dogs and the people.
Right. Awesome. So good. I'm really excited to share this with people. And I've been taking a bunch of notes while we've been talking to listen back. So I like to ask just a couple little questions at the end, just to help people, kind of get to know you a little bit. Sure. What are who's your favorite mentor out there? Someone that you love to study or listen to? Do you have a favorite mentor that you've grown up listening to?
No, as far as life or
in anything. Yeah.
Huge Pema Chodron fan.
Me too. All right. Fist bump.
Yeah, Pema Chodron's great. Tony Robbins is great. Karen's kind of great. She kind of really.
Yeah. Well, and I also want to say that that is also in super alignment of being a Soulfield CEO, is having people on your team that fill in those gaps and those blanks for you. I need a Karen, because I'm like you, the passion and the, just wanting to teach and share and learn and inspire. And then when I get into the other stuff, the momentum just really starts to slow down. So opening up to that.
Well, that's the other thing too, is I have a Dylan too. I get this guy who he's 21 years old. He works 40 plus hours at an animal hospital, and then he comes here and does 40 plus hours. And he is smart, tough, everything. If he can learn to communicate with people, then he'll be a lot better. But that's where he's learning. That's what he's trying to do. I mean, this guy's the future of what we're doing here. As I get older, I'm going to hand the torch to him.
He's your protege. I know that. And Dylan is fantastic. So Dylan, thank you for what you've done to help us on our journey. So this is a really weird question. I feel weird even asking you this. Usually most of my guests are female and I ask them this. Can't even ask.
I'm dying to hear this.
What is on your nightstand?
What's on my nightstand?
Usually we have books and things we talk about. What's on your nightstand, Chris?
Okay, I'll tell you exactly what's on my nightstand. a roll of Tums for my acid reflux, a lamp, my tablet, loose change, and I think The Places That Scare You by Pemmichoda.
All right. I was going to ask you what book are you reading. So there you go.
Yeah.
Fantastic. What's your most favorite place to be?
In a restaurant. Not kidding. I absolutely, that food's another big passion that's kind of gotten a little out of control here. So it is. I love friends and family, and this is going to sound a little weird, but more friends than family, because my family, they're there. You're going to have to deal with it. Who you choose to break bread with is a big deal, and that makes me feel like family. That my friends are around, and we're all laughing and joking. I mean, we have fun at dinners. We have just an enormous amount of time, and that is the release for me, and that makes it so much more special. It turns friends into family.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's sacred right there. And I love that, your family is part of your business.
Oh yeah.
You guys it's a team, and that's really powerful. And you see that, and the kids are involved, and your wife is there, and that's a beautiful thing. That's just super congruent for your message. And
I couldn't do any of this without my family. My wife is a huge, she's kind of been the catalyst for change, and my kids are a pain in the butt. But it keeps reminding me that you have to have your family involved in it. Family can be problems, but my God, I love dogs because they're problems. I love my kid.
Yeah. Well, and I think all this work has helped me be a better mom. This has helped me be more assertive with my daughter and more consistent, I think, and follow through with obviously the dog and the child are not too dissimilar in some ways. So I thank you very much for all of your help and service, and namaste and all that good stuff. You guys can find Chris over at your website is
K9STS.com, letter K, number 9. We also have a Facebook page, Canine Solutions Training Services on Facebook. And we have a YouTube channel that really pisses people off.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Fraize on YouTube. You can just look it up.
Yeah, you guys have to check it out. You guys will enjoy this. If you are having challenges with your dogs, you know who to call and who to get in touch with. And Chris, thank you so much for this conversation today. You rock.
Oh no, I'm so proud of you, because when I saw you with your dogs before, I was like, oh my God, what's going on? Risen from the ashes like a phoenix.
Phoenix. Yeah, we're doing really well. And we'll be back for more classes to kind of have more fun with them now, less just dealing with all the problems.
That's it. And thank you for having me on it. It means a lot.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for listening today, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this conversation. Please make sure to comment down below on the page. And I also would love to encourage you to leave a review for the Soulfield CEO podcast on iTunes. It helps us grow, and it helps get these episodes into the ears and the hearts of those who need it most. I would love to also extend an invitation to you to head on over to amberlilyestrom.com/training, and you can sign up for a free gift that I have put together just for you, along with a beautiful little PDF to help you design your brand new business roadmap. Thank you guys for joining me on this episode today. I love you so much. The music on this episode is provided by Victor Rads. You can learn more about Victor Rads over at soundcloud.com/Victor Rads.